is the Warrior Wealth Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Chris Jackson, and today, February 4th, 2018, I am bringing on a special guest, a professional MMA fighter, and one hell of a dude that has just recently joined the team, Anthony Pagliaro. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Good to have you on today. How's the weather out there? Where are you at, anyways?
I'm actually in Utah, right outside of Salt Lake City, in Logan, Utah. And today it's actually today it's pretty chilly. I mean, we've been getting snow, but it's only in the mountains, so I guess we're lucky in that part.
Right. Yeah, it snowed a little bit here in Ohio. We've got a couple, looks like about an inch or 2 inches, and it seems to looks like it's starting to melt off. So, anyways, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Anthony?
Well, I went into the service when I was 16. I was in the Air Force for 6 years. I started as a HVAC with my MOS, and then I cross-trained into the military police. It's not what I originally wanted to go in for, but I gave it a try, and I fell in love with it. I've been fighting professionally probably for about 4 years now. Before that, I was an amateur fighter because, of course, you have to work your way up.
Right.
So I did amateur fighting for probably about 6 years. I love it. I mean, it's awesome. It's a good sport. It's a good career. I love what I do. I'm also teaching and instructing young adults and teenagers in boxing and in self-defense. So that's another thing that I love and enjoy doing also.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Sounds excellent. How many years have you been fighting, you said?
Altogether, probably about 11 or 12.
Okay. And what got you into the self-defense or the MMA circle, or shall I say ring?
Well, being originally from New York, where I grew up, being on the streets, everybody thinks of the city, which I didn't live in the city. I lived on the outskirts of the city. You had to learn how to defend yourself because of all the gangs, all the street fights. So my biological father actually got me into Taekwondo at the time. So I did Taekwondo all throughout high school. And then when I went to the service, with my MOS cross-training into, the military police, we had to learn self-defense, and jiu-jitsu was one of those self-defense classes we took. And I fell in love with it. It's a great mind. It teaches you patience, courage, strength. It's just an awesome experience to do.
Right.
I got stationed here in Utah. And when I was here, I actually went to one of the gyms here, and it was an MMA gym, and I knew nothing about MMA or cage fighting or anything like that. The coach there, Juan Santa Cruz, actually noticed that I had, what's the word I'm looking for? Skills. So he's like, hey, you want to give the cage a try? You want to give give fighting a try? And I said, I really don't want to get punched and kicked in the face or, twisted up in certain ways. I said, I'm just doing this more of a, to stay in shape, to get, keep active, be my self-defense, area. And he said, well, just give it a try. So I said, okay. So a week went by, I kept training some more. And him and I actually stepped into the cage. It was just, him and I. We went one full round. And I hate to admit it, after that round, I lost control. I freaked out. I started crying, because of all the adrenaline rushing and everything that was going on.
Right.
I lasted that whole time. But granted, because, he's a coach and he knows, what to throw, how to throw it. He wasn't trying to beat the crap out of me, destroy me. He was just trying to see if I had what it took.
Right.
And after that, I've been doing it ever since. I love it. It's an awesome sport. It keeps you in shape. It keeps your mind, your body in shape. It keeps you in tune. It teaches you how to laugh at certain situations, knowing that you can do what you do.
Right.
Well, for those that watch UFC, there's strikers, there's ground and pound, there's submissionists, and with me, I'm not a big striker, but I will strike if I have to. So I take boxing along with Muay Thai. I did kickboxing for a couple years, so I have my striking part. But with me, I love to ground and pound. So I'll throw a couple punches, I'll throw a couple kicks, I'll take you to the ground, and I'll beat the crap out of you on the ground, or I will, as they like to say, I will take your arm and put it behind your back or your leg and put it on top of your forehead and make you say, Dad.
Right on, right on, right on, right on. I like it. So, how many years have you been fighting professionally? And if you could clarify for our listeners, when people say professional, what exactly does that mean?
Um, in the MMA community and in the MMA world, you have to work your way up, and there's certain levels of the fighting world, like amateur. There's a lot of rules in amateurs that we don't have in the pros because we have, more rules. Amateurs, you're not allowed to kick to the face. You're not allowed to knee to the body or foot stomps. There's certain submissions you can't do as an amateur, and you don't get paid as an amateur to fight.
Okay.
It's more you go up there and try to get noticed. You do get a record, you get a win or a loss, but you're not getting paid to do it.
Right.
As a professional, you start getting paid to fight. You can travel, go to different states. You have to get a license. You have to get a physical here. You have to get blood work every time you fight. You can do head kicks. You can do knees. You can do pretty much almost any submission that you can think of. So it takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of passion to be a professional fighter. And you can also get sponsors. You can get, there's so much that you can do as a pro. And that's when everybody is looking at you in order to make that next step into either UFC or to the Bellator or to the World Series of Fighting.
Okay. Okay. So it's almost like being an entrepreneur, basically. Once you get into the professional world, you got to either know how to continue and to be successful, or it looks like a lot of fighters. Like, let's say this: how many to the ratio? How many actually succeed compared to those who fail once they become a professional? Like, what does it take?
Ooh, being a professional is a lot of dedication, a lot of risk taking, and it's a big mindset. Being a professional, when you fight, your fight camp is all year round, no matter if you have a fight or not, because you always have to be ready in case they call you up like on a 2 weeks notice or a week's notice saying, hey, we got a fight for you. You want to fight?
Right.
So with me, my training, I do 2 trainings a day. And once I know I have a fight, that can go all the way up until 4 trainings a day to 5. So it's a lot of dedication. Being a professional, you have to know how to talk to people. You have to represent yourself. You have to be a good person. You can't be cocky. You have to do a lot of things yourself as a professional until you get a manager, until you get to that next level. So I've had to do a lot of finding sponsors, paying for training, paying for gear. I have to do that all on my own. So being an entrepreneur, you have to learn what to say, how to say it, giving them what they want so you can get what you want, and being that stand-up person for people to look up to.
Right. So when you get to the professional side, it's not all about just fighting. There's so much more into it. You've got your sales and marketing and all that. Basically, it becomes a business, right?
Correct. Yes.
Now, when you look at like like when we talk about fighting, you think about guys like Conor McGregor, Ken Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, and all those guys. When it comes to characteristics of fighters and athletes, what would you say the difference between being a fighter and being an athlete is?
there's always going to be a fighter, and the fighters are the ones that are fighting until they get punched in the face. Oh, I'm going to be a cage fighter, or I'm going to fight, and then it changes their world once they get hit or kicked for the first time.
Right.
So a fighter is somebody that just does it because they want the title, or they want to get seen, or it's kind of like I can't say it's the bully version, but it's the I'm a fighter and you're not, or I've done it, you haven't. An athlete is someone that loves and enjoys the sport, that dedicates it. They're upstanding. They'll help others. They'll teach others. Yes, when it comes to being in the cage, it's just you and that other person. Once that door, that cage shuts, it's just you and him. So it takes a lot of dedication and understanding and patience. But being an athlete, you have to train every day. You have to eat right every day. You have to be an upstanding person. You can't be the cocky. You can't be the, I'm fighting, I'm going to mess you up, type of person.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so typically those guys that are just in it for the spotlight and for the glory of fighting itself, they probably don't do very well, do they?
No, and I can bring up an example. I had a fight last year. No, actually 2 years ago, sorry. And this guy, they call them the Facebook or Instagram predators, where they talk a lot of crap and they try to get in your head. Because being in this world, it's always a mind game also.
Right.
He was talking crap about my teammates. He was talking crap about my coaches. And being an athlete and a pro, I just, I didn't say anything. I didn't reply to his messages. I didn't reply to his, his posts. And I did all my showing in the cage. That night, I had the fastest knockout and the fight of the night. I knocked him out in 10 seconds. After the fight, they always have the post-fight interviews. And I pretty much said, I respect him, but I don't respect him.
Right.
You can talk all the talk you want. You can say everything you want. But when it comes to you and I in that cage, that's where you got to leave it at. And I just pretty much showed my respect and everything for him once we stepped into that cage. I let my hands do the talking.
I noticed that, like, most of the athletes in the mixed martial arts world, when they get in the ring, it is all about winning. And then out of the ring, it seems like you get that respect for one another, and whatever the case may be, whether it's just seeing each other out or when you're up on the stage or when you're in the getting ready for the fight at weigh-ins and whatnot, you still understand each other. And it's like you can beat the crap out of one another, but then also you can be friends. And I think that's highly respectable in that.
There's a lot of people that I have fought that we're excellent and best friends. I mean, we go to trainings together, we talk to each other. It's one big family. I mean, there's not a place that I can travel to that once I get there and people are like, oh yeah, you're here, come over to the gym, or hey, why don't you come train with us? And it's the same respect here too. I mean, if there's ever something that's going on, or if I need help, or if they need help, we just hit up one another and say, oh, like for example, people moving all the time. Hey, I need some help moving. Well, yeah, I'll be right there. Or, there's never a hesitation in this big community.
Awesome. So, when you would, when someone asks should they get into the mixed martial arts sport, what would you tell them they first and foremost need to understand about the sport?
The biggest thing is dedication. You have to have dedication in this sport. You can't just do it because you want to do it, or you want to be, or you want to be able to punch somebody or kick somebody and just beat the crap out of somebody. You have to get into this community knowing that you're getting into a family, that you're getting into something that a lot of people have respect for you, because there's not a lot of people that can go in the cage and be in there for 3 minutes or be in there for 5 minutes and go 3 to 5 rounds. It takes a lot of heart, a lot of passion, a lot of dedication. So it's not for those easy-minded at all.
Right. So I mean, what age groups would you recommend if someone was to say, "Hey, Anthony, can you teach my child um, self-defense?" I know we have spoke before, and you told me you was trying to dabble into more instructing and the coaching side of it. Um,
Hmm.
what age group would you say is the prime key when it comes to getting into the sport, or just basically learning um, different backgrounds? Like, what would you recommend?
Starting out, I mean, there's always, no matter what age you are, you can always learn something. But being in this type of a sport, I would say that the earliest would be 10 years old, because that's when you're actually able to understand and comprehend what the instructor or the coach is trying to teach you. Anything younger than 10, they're not really in it. They're just doing it because, mom and dad are saying, hey, why don't you give this a try? So
Right.
I would say probably from 10 years old on and up and higher.
Okay. And when you go into your defense classes, for the people that you teach, what all do you really focus on? What, like, basically, what's your routine of the day? How do you go about it? And basically, what do you cover?
When I'm teaching and instructing classes, my first thing is getting your mind right. You have to have a clean mind, a clear mind, in order to learn, in order to understand, the whole self-defense aspect. Um, yes, I will teach you all the self-defense techniques to defend yourself, but at the same time, you have to understand why you're doing it, and knowing that you're doing it just to defend yourself, not to go out there and use it against other people.
Right.
So the mindset is the big thing that I work on. I have to get you to that understanding and patience and comprehending and relaxing of a mind before I can start instructing you.
Right. Yeah, getting into that, it seems like a lot of people, kind of backing up, when I had asked what kind of personalities get into fighting, and it's either the fighter or the athletes, they understand that there's a lot of mind and body and soul when it comes to learning certain styles. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of teaches you a life's lesson all in itself. What would you say that you've gathered from getting into the sport? What have you learned how to deal with, or basically, um, how have you used it to become the person you are today?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think most of all is, I know I keep repeating it, but the mind. Um, Knowing what it takes to be in that cage, to train, to do what we have to do. Um, if you don't have a clear mind, you're going to be using the fighting and the stuff that you're learning for, a dumb reason. Like, for example, you can become a bully, because
Right.
all these styles, there's not a lot of people that know them. And if
Right.
you know them, you can do a lot of damage and you can hurt people. Um, so I think the biggest thing I've learned from being in this sport, um, is the respect, the courage, the heart that it takes to do all of our styles and our training. Um, it's definitely not easy, and a lot of people think it is. Um, I know I have a couple idols that I always have looked up to, and the reason why I got into the sport, and that's Jean-Claude Van Damme and Bruce Lee. Um, a lot of Bruce Lee's quotes I still use in my trainings because it shows in life what it really is. Um,
Right.
my favorite quote that he always says is, "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for strength to endure a difficult one." And that is always my go-to saying that Bruce Lee stated.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, life's not easy, and if you're prepared for it, I think that's the key, is always being prepared, and that
Mm-hmm.
comes in anything that we do. You can be prepared for life in general. You can be prepared for, when it comes to business. You can be prepared for, that test, whatever. If you're prepared, you're going to kick ass. You're going to come out ahead and on top. So, all styles do you know when it comes to the sport?
I know jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, judo, um, wrestling, boxing, and Muay Thai. Those are all my specialties that I've actually tried to concentrate on and, become my own style.
What's your most favorite? What would you say that you really want to target when it comes to training? I know you got to be equally balanced, but what is your most go-to? What would you say?
Um, my my most go-to would probably be the jiu-jitsu part. Like I said, I'd rather take you to the ground and twist you up and have you call me, who's your daddy, um, and rather punch or kick you.
Okay, okay. So for the listeners, we are providing the self-defense service to you. As I said earlier in the beginning of this podcast, Anthony will be the instructor for that. Um, Feel free to check him out, check us out, see what we're about, visit us on social media, and hopefully we can start providing some kind of value to you in these podcasts. I brought Anthony along just so he can kind of go back into his background, a little bit about him, and I kind of want to share his story and share who he is with you guys. If there's something you want to hear in the next podcast, there's going to be a Ask Chris on the side, and either on the blog pages or on the podcast themselves. They'll send you to a contact form. Basically, send in your feedback, comments, and what you'd like to hear for us. So, anyways, Anthony, thanks for being on today's podcast. Go ahead and tell us, one more thing about you before we leave, and yeah.
Okay. Being in this sport and doing what I do, I'm not, I wasn't brought up in the greatest environment, and that's another reason why I got into the sport. I was constantly tossed back and forth between my biological father and my mother since I was 1 year old. I've had to go to a lot of different schools. I've had to make friends, be in different environments. My stepfather was a bad alcoholic, so whenever I was with my mother, my mom and I would have to go in shelters. I've had to lie in order to, protect my mom and protect him, because at the time I didn't know. I was young. So I just say that, life is not the easiest. And being in this sport and having self-defense, you'll learn how to understand and make yourself happy. And if you can't make yourself happy, then life's not going to be happy. So not everybody in this sport is doing it because they just want to do it or they want to have that fame. Every fighter has a story that a lot of people don't know about. Being an athlete, we're one big family, and we're teddy bears. You can come to us for anything. You can talk to us about anything, because most likely we've either been through it or we know somebody that hasn't. We can understand that. And then being in the military also, I mean, it's helped me out a lot mentally. So life is not easy. So, but I'm here for anybody that wants to talk or wants to chat.
Outstanding. Glad to have you, man. It's always a pleasure to have people like you on this podcast. And before we go, I just want to say, Conor McGregor, Anthony's coming for you January 2019. All right, guys, this is the Warrior Wealth Solutions podcast. You can find us over at warriorwealthsolutions.com. Find us on social media. And if there's something you want to hear in the next podcast, go ahead and comment as to what you would like to hear. And that's it for today. We'll see you next time.